me see here. I think screen 2. I'm going to share my screen because whenever I try to share something that is not my screen, I always mess up. And then at some point in time, I'm going to use something called Bear Deck, which is, I don't know if you all are familiar with Mentimeter, like these kinds of systems in which you ask questions and then people can answer anonymously, that kind of thing. And I'm doing that. Let's see, instructor paced activity. And this is like a super safe system. I use it as a professor all the time, and it's a system for students, even like K-12 students. So you can imagine how safe that thing has to be. Let me see if I can. Where is the chat? My Walt, can't find the chat. I don't see the chat if I'm sharing a screen. Oh, here it is. Stop video, apps, annotate, more, chat. Here it is. Okay, so the link is this one. There you go. So if you all go there, even on your phones, like sometimes people just do that on their phones, but if you all click there, or if on your phones you go to joinpd.com, and you entered this link, VEVLIC, then you should, what will happen is on your phone, when we have like a little quiz or something like that, you can just complete it there. So it's just a way to make this more interactive, I guess. And I see that we have one student connected. Well, can you, I don't know if you can try this too, just to make sure it's working on your end. And I'm going to start. Walt, are you going to record or do I record?
I've already started recording.
Okay, all right. So welcome everyone to 5 Factors of Strength, Personality and Leadership in the Workplace. This is going to be like a super quick introduction to personality. If you're interested, there's a lot more where that came from, and I can do something a little bit more in depth. But for today, it's just going to be a quick one. I know that people love to have the slide deck. So if you want to have the slide deck and you want to copy it, this is the link. But also we can send a link to the slides after the presentation, because we can download the list of the people who signed up and send it to them. So do I need to wait? Or are you guys okay? Oh, and the other thing is, you know what I can also do? Hold on a sec. I can go in here and I can go to chat and I can put the link to the slides in there too. So if you want the slides, there they are.
Perfect.
Okay, so hello and welcome. In terms of who I am Dr. Chris Wildermuth. I am the director of the Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership here at Barry University in Florida. Both Walter and I, and that's why I quickly walked to his office, we're actually in the Melbourne office, even though Barry University is in Miami, Florida. Maybe you guys could put in the chat where you're from. I'm just curious, like where are you logging in from? And this, as you can see, this is a small group, so you can be, like we can make this super informal. Oh, Birmingham, Alabama, I can see that, Dean. And folks, if you could mute yourselves while you're typing, just because I can hear that, we can hear that. And Alfina said that she is from, I couldn't see that. Walt, what did Alfina say? She's from where? Ireland. Ooh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, she's from Ireland.
Okay, thank you for that. And of course, this program is sponsored by Barry University, and specifically our leadership programs at Barry University. This is just a very quick information on what we have. The Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership is the program that I direct, and we offer certificates in leadership and human resources. But we also have a Master of Science in Leadership and Innovation, a Master of Science in Human Resource Development, and a doctorate in organizational leadership. And I do teach in all these programs, but thankfully, no, I do not direct them all. So once again, if you're interested in any of that, you can just go in there, or you can take a look at the slides and see where that page is. Okay, so that's super quick. In terms of housekeeping, you already know that we're recording the session for people who couldn't come here before. If you're interested in the SHRM Professional Development Certification, no, what is it? Professional Development Credit, that's what it is, the PDC. Just because of SHRM's requirements, I can only share that at the end of the presentation. And if you have no idea what on earth is a SHRM PDC, you probably don't need one. So this, like, believe me, if you needed one, you would know exactly what it is. Jenny, you're smiling. I think you know exactly what that is, right? Okay, cool. All right, so just for starters, I'm going to ask you to enter in the chat which of these tasks you find energizing. And I'm going to read them: designing a presentation, facilitating a presentation to a large group, leading a team, mediating conflict, my least favorite thing ever, organizing a messy office, working on a detailed project, brainstorming new ideas, attending a networking event, working independently, or working with a team. So which of these tasks, and you can pick as many as you want, and I would suggest that you would just put like 1, 3, and 5 or something like that will be faster. Or you can write it down. So I can see here that, let me see if I can see all the chats. What's going on in the chats? Because I can't see them from here, Walt.
I see 2, 3, and 10 from Dean, and 1, 5, and 6 from Angela, and 3, 7, and 10 from Jenny.
Okay, now, all right, who said that they like to organize a messy office and work on a detailed project? Because I really need you in my life. Whoever that was. My office is not necessarily messy, but oh my gosh. Okay, Angela is laughing over there. Okay. And next, I'm going to ask you the opposite, which is which of these tasks are draining to you? And when I use the word draining, I'm talking about those tasks that, like, they take your energy away. Like, you do that, and I know you might as well. I wouldn't say stop living, but it feels like that, right? Like your energy goes away. And let me see. So somebody said 8, attending a networking event. Let's see. What other numbers do we have in there, Walt?
You got 1, 5, and 6, 2, 3, and 10, and
Okay.
3,
So
7, and 10.
all right. So you can see obviously that these are different, right? So the same things that can energize somebody, for example, organizing a messy office, somebody is energized by that. I think it was it Rebecca that was interested in organizing messy offices? You give me that to do and I just about die. Or facilitating a presentation to a large group. For some of us, it's no big deal. It's totally fine. And for some of us, it's like, oh gosh. And it's not that we can't do these things. Nothing about this is about can or can't, or whether you're good at it or not good at it. It's whether it takes a lot of your energy. So for example, let me stop sharing. No, I can't stop sharing, because if I stop sharing, I'm going to mess up with my Pear Deck system. I think I'm going to rely on Dr. Washington out there to let me know what's going on. But perhaps you can either put it on the chat or raise your hands, or however, which of you enjoy large conferences? Anybody in the group who likes large conferences? Angela said, not me.
Alfina likes them.
Okay. All right. And now let me ask you another question. You go to one of those large conferences and it's the end of the day and you've attended like 1,000 sessions and you had lunch with everybody and you've been with people all day. At the end of the day, which of you would like to go for dinner with a bunch of strangers? And which of you will go to the hotel? So put in the chat which one you would prefer. And then Dr. Washington can tell me what's going on. Hotel alone, Angela says. Back to the hotel, Jenny says. Brief dinner and then hotel. Dinner, okay. All right. So I found a kindred soul, a spirit here. So here's the thing with me, because I'm so ridiculously extroverted, and in case you haven't noticed, and you probably have noticed just by the way I smile, gesticulate. Well, gesticulating is part of being Brazilian, but just the way I smile and am comfortable with a group and things like that, I'm probably an extrovert, right? I'm so extroverted that going back to the hotel room at the end of the day is like the kiss of death. The more tired I am, what energizes me is being with more people. So I will sometimes go downstairs to the bar, not because I drink. It's not about drinking. It's about finding other human beings who happen to be there. And I can see that some of you are watching me in horror thinking, oh my gosh, no, absolutely not. That's exactly what I would do. And of course, what we're talking about is personality versus energy. By the way, one thing that I totally forgot to do, and I really apologize for that, is I forgot to introduce Dr. Washington, who is my partner in crime
No
here.
worries.
Dr. Washington, I'm sorry. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Hey, everyone. Hey, welcome to the program today. Not necessarily program, the presentation by Dr. Wildermuth, and it's a joy to have all of you here. And me and Chris have been working together on different ventures here at the Melbourne campus. I also assist her in professor duties. I help her out when she needs help, and I'm the regional recruitment manager for Barry University. And I'm actually a military veteran too, so as well. And then one of the guys on here, I actually know them personally. So I'm happy that you guys were able to sign up and be part of this today.
Got it.
Back to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Walt. Thank you for that. Okay, so personality is about energy. And what you see on the screen is my face if I have to handle any kind of paperwork. By the way, no, this is a real story. Joanne is the dean's, well, actually, just been promoted. She was the dean's administrative assistant. I'm not sure what her position is now. But I literally wrote her a note today saying, hey, Joanne, can you hold my hand virtually while I fill out the expense report? Because I absolutely hate expense reports. They give me the heebie-jeebies. Okay, so is it because I'm incapable of filling out an expense report? No, I'm a reasonably intelligent human being. It's just that it drains me. All right, before we go on to the personality model we're going to take a look at, I just wanted you to enter in the chat which personality assessments do you know? Which have you taken at work, or which have you worked on, or whatever? Because we all complete those things in college, the workplace. I'm thinking DISC, MBTI, the Enneagram. Hogan. Oh, Dean knows Hogan. Hogan is another one of the big fives, Dean. We can even talk a little bit about the difference between some of these big five assessments. Did the Strengths Finder, there's some discussion on whether the Strengths Finder is really personality or it's a combination of personality and talent and intelligence and competencies, but some would call it a personality assessment. And Walt, I didn't get the last one over there. Was there more? Walt?
Oh,
I'm not
can you hear me
hearing.
now?
No.
I'm sorry. The psychometric test, were you able to see that one?
Oh, okay. Now I see it. All right. Cool. Okay, so what we're talking about today is specifically the five-factor model. And when I talk about the five-factor model, I'm not necessarily talking about a specific assessment, even though the terminology that I'm using today is the terminology from the assessment that I use in my course, which is the narrative Big Five assessment. But there are multiple Big Five assessments because the Big Five is a model, not an assessment. So for example, when Dean said that he knows the Hogan is another Big Five assessment, and there are multiple Big Five assessments out there. It goes beyond the purposes of today's presentation to go through all the various Big Five assessments. If you're interested, write me and I can give you a list of them. But just so that you know, the Big Five is a model. The difference between the Big Five model and, for example, well, let me restate this. The difference between a Big Five assessment and an assessment such as the DISC or the MBTI is that the DISC and the MBTI are typologies. They assume that there is a finite number of types of people. Now, how many types? Is it 16 types? Is it more than 16 types? Is it 9 types? Is it 4 types? It really depends on what assessment and what model you're talking about, but they're still based on types. Whereas when we're talking about the Big Five, we're talking about traits. Now, also, before we go into what the personality traits are for the Big Five, remember that there's no right or wrong in personality. We're not discussing pathologies. We're not discussing personality dysfunctions or anything like that. We're talking about normal personality traits in the workplace. And there isn't a right or wrong. It isn't better to be an extrovert than an introvert or an introvert than an extrovert, for example. All right. So the first trait that I wanted to go through is resilience. Resilience has to do with how much you worry, whether you're more likely to, let's say, see holes in plans before they happen, whether you're more optimistic or pessimistic, that kind of thing. So how resilient are you? And there should be here I don't see any responses. I don't know if you all are in the pair deck or not. If you're not, please give your response on in the chat. Are you high in resilience, as in you're normally calm and cool or collected and unlikely to worry? Or are you more likely to be reactive and maybe see problems before they take place? So where do you think you are? And by the way, the reason that I had created the pair deck is that those things could be like anonymous and people wouldn't have to like say it. That's why I put it that way. And let's see, I have 1 of 3 responses. Let me see if I can have. So somebody said medium, I'm middle of the road. I don't know if there's anybody who is super calm or reactive left. Out there. By the way, full disclosure, if I were to answer, I would say I can be reactive. I would put myself at the bottom because I can be reactive and I can worry. And one of the advantages of that is that I can see problems before they occur. So if there's possibly a downside to a situation or something happening, believe me, I'm going to find it. All right. So that is resilience. In other Big Five assessments, it can be called reactivity. It can be called need for stability. It sometimes is called neuroticism. I naturally don't like that term too much, so I prefer to use resilience. The next one is extroversion, and then the question is how sociable are you and how comfortable are you on your own? So those of us who are super extroverted, they're the ones who are super sociable and we prefer to be with other people. And also one thing with extroversion is that we tend to have more tolerance to sensory stimulation in general. So for example, I'm a huge Disney World fan. Everybody who knows me knows that. I have like Disney stuff all over the place. I go to Disney 1,000 times. Disney World is a nightmare for introverts because it's not only about people, it's also about color and bustle and noise and music. Like the senses are bombarded. So that would be extroversion, and I'm going to go here to show the responses. And I had one response for medium and one response for low. And according to the responses that you gave me earlier about going down after the conference and so on, I would suspect that this group is more ambiverted or introverted, like because real bona fide extroverts would go down to that bar or would go down for meetings and so on after the conversation. Openness to experiences has to do with imagination and originality. And by the way, all those traits have subtraits. So for example, openness to experiences, one of the subtraits is imagination. Another one is complexity. Are you more of a complex thinker, or do you prefer things to be simple? Again, which is best? I don't know. It really depends on the situation. So in your particular case, how original are you? How much do you enjoy new stuff? Are you one of those that if it ain't broke, let's not break it and let's use what's working? Or are you the if it ain't broke, let's break it and see how many pieces are in it? And in terms of the responses I got, I had two people who are more practical and down to earth. Okay. And then agreeableness. Agreeableness is the names are complicated because when you see the word agreeable, you're like, oh man, if I'm low, that means I'm disagreeable. No, not necessarily, but it could mean that it's easier for you to challenge. Usually people who are high in agreeableness are very service-oriented and very comfortable going with the flow and going with what the team wants. Whereas if you are low, you're typically very comfortable challenging others and situations. So that's agreeableness. I can tell you that statistically, a lot of people in managerial roles tend to be lower in agreeableness, but that doesn't necessarily mean that being low in agreeableness makes you a better manager. It's just that statistically, a lot of people are like that. And what I have is high and medium. I am a negotiator, mediator, and high. By the way, if there's anybody in here who is in HR, HR is very commonly middle of the road to high. I've done some research on the personality of HR professionals, and it's usually there. And then conscientiousness. Another word for conscientiousness is focus, and I usually prefer that word because the word conscientiousness reminds us of, I don't know, work ethic, and it really has nothing to do with work ethic. You can have an amazing work ethic and be low in conscientiousness. It has to do with focus, methodicalness. Are you a planner? Are you perfectionistic? Are you organized? Or the other side of the scale, you have people who are super flexible, very comfortable multitasking, and maybe they don't really care about organization that much. Does it matter? I don't know. It really depends on what you're doing. So what I have in here is I have one middle of the roader and one person who is more flexible and spontaneous. HR people, by the way, are normally on the top of the scale. They're usually higher in conscientiousness. So they're usually higher in conscientiousness and lower in openness to experiences. That's kind of very typical in terms of HR. By the way, I'm not that. I'm the opposite, which might explain why I look that desperate if you give me a very simple expense report to complete. So those are just the 5 factors, and this was such a quickie. I would say anybody who is interested, any of you, just send me a note afterwards. I can show you how you can take an assessment for yourself. I can show you where you can get more information, right? Because there's a lot more. There are sub-traits under each of those and so on. some quick recommendations in terms of personality, since this was so quick. What I have found throughout my career, not only helping organizations, but also with students, graduate students, undergraduate students, and mostly in my consulting work, is that personality provides a neutral language to discuss differences. So it's different to say, oh, Sally and John are having difficulties here because Sally is really focused. She likes to do one thing at a time. And then her colleague is more flexible and doesn't mind being interrupted and likes to move from one thing to another. The two can't seem to work together. But the problem is, if we don't have a neutral language to talk about differences, then what we end up by saying is, oh, this person has low work ethic, or this person is disorganized, or this person is unprofessional, instead of seeing these things as true differences between human preferences at work. And the problem is that even words may have different meanings. For example, for somebody who is very high in openness, if we use the word innovation, we mean something different than somebody who is middle of the road and uses the same word. Organized for me may mean something very different than for somebody who is truly very organized. So even when you make decisions as a leader in the organization, your words may mean something else. Different tasks energize different people. And one of the problems in the workplace is if somebody has good work ethic and they do something well, what does the typical manager do? Give them more of that to do. And if that thing is draining the living lights of that person, you're probably disengaging your employee. And there's very good research out there on the relationship between personality and engagement, but mostly it has to do with whether there's a fit between what the person is doing and really what the person's tendencies are. So I would encourage everybody to take the time to learn. It's not going to be something you're going to learn in half an hour. It obviously takes more. If you need more information, either on Barry University or frankly in personality in general, and you want to shoot me an email and say, hey, Chris, what are some assessments I can take a look at? I will even give you the names of free ones that you can take and some of the advantages. I'm not here to sell assessments. That's not my thing. So I can give you like a variety of options that you can choose from. And yay, you spent half an hour and you got yourself 0.5 SHRM credit. We're going to send that by email as well. Walt, can we get the names of people who were here so that we can send them a note?
Yes, do you have if all of you could put your emails in the chat, I can download and send this information to you too, and any additional stuff that you would like as well.
Yeah, and if you prefer, obviously you can write directly to the facilitator. If you don't want to put your email publicly, that's totally okay. And then we can send you that number so that you can have it for your records, right? But it's activity 23 T5T2K. SHRM asks us to keep program evaluations. That's a SHRM requirement when we're providing PDCs. So we're going to send you the evaluation. If you could please fill it out. I know that the Barry University person who takes care of that, who is not me, because remember that's paperwork, will be really thankful to me. And I think that's it. And I miraculously managed to do this on time. So I'm going to stop.